Adam Schefter broke some interesting news today that caught me completely off guard. Lions All-Pro center Frank Ragnow informed the team that he plans to retire. This is a huge blow to the reigning NFC North champions, who are already replacing both their offensive and defensive coordinators, as well as other assistant coaches and Pro Bowl guard Kevin Zeitler as well. And now the anchor of their offensive line and a guy who might be the best center in all of football has retired unexpectedly. How big of a loss is this for the Detroit Lions, and who will replace Ragnow? Let's go ahead and get right into it. Not only is Ragnow a four-time Pro Bowler and All-Pro center, potentially the best in the NFL, but the Lions' offense with Ragnow is one of the best in the entire league. But without Ragnow, they have been merely pedestrian, ranking 23rd in the NFL in success rate and just 12th in EPA per play. With Ragnow on the field, they have the third highest success rate and they're tied for first in the NFL in EPA per play. This is since 2022, excluding garbage time. Another reason why some people think this could be devastating for Detroit is the timing. The NFL draft is already over, and the free agency only offers band-aid options at this point. The good news for Detroit Lions fans, though, is they are not completely unprepared for this. They have a veteran center option on the roster, and they landed two interior prospects that I really like this offseason in the draft, Tate Ratledge and Miles Frazier. But the veteran option, Graham Glasgow, he's played center effectively multiple times in his career, both for the Lions and Broncos. He's a veteran option that could help stabilize that offensive line, but that would mean the Lions are replacing both their starting guards. But here is why I believe the Lions are still going to have a top offensive line even after losing Frank Ragnow. To me, it's because they landed one of the best interior offensive line prospects in the entire draft, a favorite of mine, Georgia guard Tate Ratledge, a guy who compares very closely to Frank Ragnow himself, both physically and athletically. Both players are roughly 6'5" and around 210 pounds, while being extremely athletic for their size with great footwork. Ragnow scored a 9.93 on his relative athletic score, but Tate Ratledge scored even higher. While also checking in at 5 years younger, he scored a 9.98 and tested off the charts athletically. He does have slightly shorter arms than Ragnow does, but he has bigger hands and ran a faster 40 time. This is a guy who profiles as a day one impact starter on the interior of the offensive line. He can play left guard, center, or right guard, but he's clearly most comfortable at right guard after dominating at that position for his entire career at Georgia and only allowing 2 sacks in his entire college career. But Frank Ragnow's a four-time Pro Bowler, a guy who's been a second-team All-Pro various times, and he's allowed just 4 sacks in the last 5 seasons in one of the best divisions in football. So while Tate Ratledge is one of my favorite interior prospects in this entire draft, what does he bring to the Detroit Lions? He was a 3-year starter at right guard. He projects as a plug-and-play day one impact player in the NFL. He's an elite pass protector with great hands, grip strength, and footwork. He can mirror pass rushers, and he can also be a mauler in the run game. He's a guy with a mullet and a mustache that fits Detroit like a glove. But no matter where they play him, he's going to be an impact type player in the NFL. One of my absolute favorite linemen in this class. I do believe he can excel at center. Now, some believe the Lions might be better off letting Glasgow go back to center and keeping Ratledge at right guard. I've already heard people say Tate's never played center, and they question if he can do it or not. But listen, this is a guy with all-pro upside in the NFL. And while I don't know if Ratledge will be able to replace Ragnow when it comes to making offensive line adjustments and identifying blitzers early on, he has the potential to be every bit as good as Ragnow was, which is extremely high praise for the rookie, as most consider Ragnow to be one of the best offensive linemen in Detroit history. So while it'd be crazy to think that his retirement is good news for Detroit, I do believe it's not as big of a loss as most people will make it out to be, simply due to how great Tate Ratledge is going to be. But they also drafted Miles Frazier later as well, another player who excelled at the Senior Bowl. But I don't want to overstate it here. This is a big loss for Detroit. Ragnow was simply one of the best offensive linemen interior wise in the NFL. And if Ratledge struggles early on, or if he were to get hurt, their offense could take a step back in 2025. They've already lost Ben Johnson, who's one of the most creative play callers in the league. And the biggest kryptonite to any offense is a quarterback getting pressure straight up the middle. And I don't know if Jared Goff has the mobility to escape that. The good news for the rest of the NFL is that Tate Ratledge and Frank Ragnow won't be lining up next to each other on the O line. Can you even imagine how dominant that line would have been if Ragnow stayed at center? And then you add Ratledge at right guard and Panay Sewell at right tackle. Who is stopping runs to the right side on that O line? So while this is definitely good news for the rest of the NFL, it's not horrible news for the Detroit Lions, who also have Kingsley Eguakon, a young center prospect from Florida, and as I mentioned, Miles Frazier from LSU as well. Even with Ragnow's retirement and losing Kevin Zeitler as well in free agency, I do not expect the Lions' offensive line to take a major step back. They're still going to be very good, but there is potential for good defensive lines to be able to exploit these guys. They also retained their offensive line coach as Hank Fraley returned, and most Detroit fans are hoping he's able to minimize this departure. But let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this one. Detroit lost their starting Pro Bowl center, but I do believe Tate Ratledge is going to step in and fill his shoes for the most part. I have more NFL draft content on the way. Stay tuned, like and subscribe for more year-round content.